savez déjà, c'est une discussion interactive. Vous aurez donc l'occasion de partager votre avis et de poser vos questions en fin de webinaire. Vous aurez également un petit sondage qui va circuler tout à l'heure. Et avant de continuer, je rappelle donc pour ceux qui nous rejoignent à l'instant que l'interprétation est disponible en français et en anglais. Voilà. Just a reminder that before continuing, remember that interpretation is available in French and in English. So please click on the icon at the bottom of your screen and select your preferred language. With no further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it is now my great honor to give the floor to Mr. Jeremy Awori, the Group Chief CEO, the Group Chief Executive Officer of Ecobank, for his opening remarks. Mr. Awori, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. I hope I can be heard clearly. Firstly, good morning, good afternoon to everyone joining us from across Africa and around the world. You're very welcome, and thank you for joining us to participate in the discussion today. It's my pleasure to this session, which is linked to our Ecobank Day, which is our 13th edition, of Ecobank Day, something which we're very proud of, and something which Ecobankers, when we first started, this theme of Ecobank Day was how we can give back to the communities and in which we live and operate, and how we can enhance our ability to drive Africa's development, in particular through education. And we've seen that 3 years ago, we launched our theme of transforming Africa through education campaign. And over the last 2 years, we've really seen Ecobankers dedicate a lot of their time and energy through mentorship of children and helping them reach their full learning potential. And we've helped train over 27,000 people on digital skills and AI skills, and have also donated and contributed over 30 IT labs across countries, across the continent. This year marks the 40th anniversary in 2025 for Ecobank. So it's a very special year. It's 40 years of putting Africa at the core of our strategy. Africa is our strategy. And it's actually quite fitting that it's the conclusion of our 3-year current campaign, which focuses on learning and sustainable development. It's clear requires inclusion and equal opportunities for all. And this really brings us to today's question, which is, can technology break down barriers to inclusive education? This year's theme of enabling inclusive learning for AI recognizes that all our progress in digital skills and AI literacy means nothing if it doesn't reach every child. And given that Africa's population is such a young population, and with the move of technology across the world, it'll be ever more important that our African children are equipped with the skills to compete. And we believe technology can be the great equalizer, but only if we design it with inclusion at its core. Excuse me. So as we think about this, I want us to think about some of the possibilities. One of the things we need to be very mindful of is how do we also include and use technology for those who are differently abled. And I think this is where technology will drive massive inclusion possibilities for all the differently abled people across the continent, and allow them to contribute to the full success of the continent. If we imagine a world where screen readers enable a child with visual impairment to excel, or caption video tutorials allowing a student who is hard of hearing to be able to thrive in computer programming, those are options that are going to be a reality and should be a reality for Africa going forward, so that we have fully inclusive contribution to our success. And these are examples which show that technology can break down these barriers. Excuse me. At Ecobank, across our 32-country footprint, we're really focusing on what we can do to enhance financial literacy, digital literacy, and inclusion. And we're working to install a total of 40 IT labs across the continent. And we look to train over 40,000 children in essential digital skills, which is the culmination of our 3-year campaign that I spoke about earlier. We want to move beyond basic literacy, partnering with technology hubs to ensure that the next generation has advanced digital competencies. This is something which is critical if we are to be able to achieve digital literacy at scale. Now, as I wind up, I want to take this opportunity to recognize the Global Partnership for Education. Thank you for all these years of partnership. We've achieved real progress in foundational learning and digital skills across Africa, and we couldn't have done it without you. So we take this opportunity to celebrate you and to recognize you as we do so. To our expert speakers today, Evans, Fernando, Irene, and Raisa, thank you for being here today. We look forward to hearing your insights on the opportunities that technology can bring to inclusive education and address the gaps in an urgent fashion as we move forward. And to everyone participating, I urge you to actively engage, participate, ask your questions, as this is critical for us to get your input, your suggestions, and to take this not just to a higher level of conversation, but a higher level of execution. So for me, let's see how we can explore technology to truly improve our digital learning, our digital literacy, but more importantly, to make sure that it is inclusive for all and drives the success of Africa in the future. So I think with those words, I would just like you to thank you for your attention and wish you a great session ahead this morning and this afternoon, depending on where you are. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Awori. Thank you for highlighting the vital role of Ecobank's commitment to the next generation, especially through accessible IT labs and digital trainings for children. I believe your message truly resonates with our audience. And I will switch back to French if you allow me. Alors, pour comprendre comment la technologie peut concrètement améliorer les conditions d'apprentissage d'enfants atteints d'un handicap, je vous propose de vous installer confortablement, hein, vraiment. On va suivre une petite vidéo pour essayer de dresser un petit peu le décor.
English time, so our English books on, okay? So, today, we want to construct 8 sentences.
The School for the Blind is a visually impaired learning institute which takes care of learners who have got some vision problem.
We don't give them any special curriculum. It is the same education. So, the main area is to equip them with necessary knowledge, skill, and attitudes that they need in life. In our last lesson, we talked about occupations and jobs people do. Getting Braille books is quite a big challenge. You cannot just go and buy a Braille book. You will not easily find them in the bookshop.
Getting information was a very difficult thing. Even reading the newspapers and so forth, it was a challenge because you could not access such information.
Very good. One clap for Teddy. Very good.
Enable is an non-governmental organization which was started to provide accessible technology to learners who are visually impaired in Kenya. So the new technology is enabling our learners to get more information.
What am I holding here? A Chromebook.
Yes.
Why do you think we have brought in these Chromebooks?
To read online.
To read online, another use. You are all right. This is a tool that is gonna help you during your classwork. Are we together?
Yes.
Are we together?
Yes.
Are we happy?
Yes.
All right.
Are we happy? Yes. I love this video. I love the energy, and I don't know about you, but I believe that was a good start for our conversation. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's delve deeper into today's topic and explore how technology can serve as a powerful tool to break down barriers and pave the way for inclusive, affordable education for all. I am coming back in French. I'm sorry about the exercise, but it's good for us. It's morning here in Senegal, where I'm joining from. So I hope you're still with us. Pendant les 40 prochaines minutes, je suis enchantée de mener la discussion avec un brillant expert en économie de l'éducation. Il est au Partenariat mondial pour l'éducation. Il a parcouru le monde et l'Afrique pour collecter des données, étudier et améliorer l'éducation de nos futurs leaders, notamment grâce à la technologie. Il s'agit de Evans Attis. Evans, bonjour, bienvenue et merci d'être ici.
Bonjour Aïssa, ça me fait plaisir d'être avec vous. Merci.
Also joining us today, an inspiring speaker, author, social entrepreneur, and an amazing expert, Fernando Botelho. You are the program specialist for assistive technology at the Children with Disability team of United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF. Your mission is to improve international cooperation and increase access to assistive technology through national systems. Fernando, welcome. We look forward to learn from your experience.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
And last but certainly not least, I'm very pleased to welcome a visionary and tireless change maker, Ms. Irene Mbarikirika, the founder and executive director of Enable, the nonprofit that was featured in the opening video. Enable empowers young Africans with disabilities through technology. As a leading advocate for digital accessibility, Irene, your views are crucial to us this morning. Welcome to you all. First, I have a question for everyone. We'll start with Irene, if you okay, gentlemen. Can you please clarify what inclusive education means to you in practice, covering disabilities, learning differences, and whatever we have? So this is for Irene.
I'm so sorry. My translation has switched to French. So I can only hear French and I'm trying to fix it.
No problem.
Okay, repeat one more time.
Yes.
In English.
Sure. I just wanted you to tell us your definition of inclusive education. What does it mean to you in practice?
Fantastic. Can you hear me clearly?
Perfect.
Yes. Let me just turn off the interpretation because it's actually, I do not want to hear original. Can you hear me now?
Still good. Maybe
can you hear me now?
Leave you. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, fantastic. Let me go ahead now.
Excellent.
Thank you. Yeah, the French has gone off. Anyway, inclusive education. Let me first start by saying thank you so much for showing the video. It's actually almost 17 years of work to finally see a blind student in Kenya holding a laptop and knowing that that's what they need to use in the classroom. As you may know, that in most schools for the blind in Africa, students use Braille. And as you can imagine, if you go to Ecobank today, there's nowhere you can hire someone who only knows how to communicate in Braille. So Braille is a very critical tool, but we have to complement Braille with other tools so that we can bring the students to where they can get connected to the rest of the world. So technology is a very, very critical tool. It will not replace Braille, but it will complement Braille. Now, if you look at inclusive education, we think of assistive technology. What devices are these students using to be able to access information? What supportive tools like screen readers? Blind people use screen readers. If they have the laptop and they have a good screen reader. The question is, will they be able to access the online platform? Will they be able to access the Ecobank website? Will they be able to access any resources that are offered by various organizations? The point is, if these resources have not been developed and designed with persons with disabilities in mind, it's not going to work. So they will always be shut out. So when I think about inclusive education, I think about availability of assistive technology. For different groups of disabilities, they use various assistive technologies. And I give an example of a screen reader. When I think about accessibility, I think about, has this information been designed based on web content accessibility guidelines, so that if there are images, when a person who's blind, when their screen reader is reading, instead of it being blank, 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 it will describe the image or communicate, if it's a graph or a pie chart, the same information you want someone who's sighted to consume is the same information that someone who's blind or someone has a disability should be able to consume. So that's what I think about when I think about inclusive education when it comes to tech, is can they have the devices? Can they access the information? Is the information available? So I'll stop there for a minute.
Thank you for your passion. I can feel that. And it's actually very good points that you are making. And we're here for that. So I would like to hear about Fernando, please. What is your definition of inclusive education? What does it mean to you in practice? And as we said, it's a broad definition. So please go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much for this opportunity. Well, inclusive education for me is there are very important two elements that I think need to be kept in mind at all times. One is certainly the technology, and we all have a lot of enthusiasm for technology. I am blind myself, and I use it every day to do my work, for entertainment, and so forth. But there's an element that sometimes is neglected, and that is the human factor, the training that is offered to teachers, the support that is offered to students by other students, by their colleagues, by their teachers, by the administrators in the schools. So at UNICEF, when we think of inclusive education, we think of the entire ecosystem around the process of learning, around the student. You need the technology and accessibility to get to school in the first place, right? Public transportation or whatever transportation is needed for the student. Maybe the student has a physical disability. And then when you get to school, you need an environment where the student will be treated just like any other student, without bullying, without any other issues. And of course, the learning experience, where you have access to the information that is needed with braille books or talking computers, whatever it might be, as well as a teacher that is comfortable presenting the information and challenging the students, just like they do with all other students.
Thank you very much, Fernando. So, Evans, your last, I'll ask you the same question. Je vais la poser en français. Je m'excuse, hein, je me suis laissée emporter. Est-ce que vous pouvez clarifier ce que représente l'éducation inclusive pour vous, en essayant voilà, si possible, de couvrir aussi largement que possible la définition dans votre réponse?
Non, merci encore une fois et j'ai suivi avec attention la réponse des autres panélistes. Mais c'est pour dire, pour moi, quand je pense un peu aux barrières pour l'éducation inclusive, je pense que c'est à tous les niveaux. Et c'est pour ça, pour moi, l'inclusion dans l'éducation signifie vraiment de transformer déjà l'état d'esprit des acteurs éducatifs. Pour que eux-mêmes, parce que parfois les barrières sont déjà dans les esprits et comment vraiment développer un système qui accueille tous les enfants, quelles que soient leurs différences. Et c'est aussi de transformer les systèmes de gouvernance, parce que parfois les barrières aussi se retrouvent dans les systèmes de gouvernance pour donner, en fait, s'assurer que les services éducatifs existent. Mais également, c'est aussi au niveau des écoles et des enseignants. Donc, pour moi, c'est tout l'écosystème, comme Fernando disait. C'est vraiment, il faut arriver à transformer cet écosystème-là pour que ça puisse répondre aux besoins d'épanouissement d'abord et d'apprentissage de tous les enfants et des jeunes, indépendamment et de leurs différences. Et pour moi, l'accessibilité et l'intégration, c'est très bien. Mais l'inclusion va au-delà de tout ça. L'idée pour moi, c'est que les systèmes scolaires vraiment doivent s'adapter pour accueillir tous ces enfants-là, pour qu'ils se sentent en sécurité, pour qu'ils apprennent très bien. En bref, je dirais pour moi vraiment l'inclusion dans l'éducation, c'est vraiment transformer tout l'écosystème autour des enfants, quel que soit où ils sont, quelle que soit leur différence.
Donc, c'est assez vaste et assez large finalement. Je reste avec vous, Evans. Est-ce que dans votre expérience, vous pouvez, puisque là, on a parlé de manière assez générale, mais est-ce que vous pouvez nous expliquer un petit peu comment, à travers votre expérience, vous pouvez comparer les différents paysages et les différents statuts en Afrique, par exemple, les différents pays que vous avez vus, où vous avez vu des exemples d'éducation inclusive? Comment est-ce que, voilà, qu'est-ce que vous avez pu constater sur le terrain en termes
OK.
d'éducation?
Non, merci. J'ai eu la chance de travailler dans quelques pays de l'Afrique de l'Ouest, l'Afrique centrale et également en Afrique de l'Est et dans mon pays également, dans les Caraïbes, en Haïti. Je dois dire, le premier élément, c'est que les enfants en situation de handicap, d'abord, ils sont invisibles parce qu'il n'y a pas de données. Enfin, il y a certaines données, il y a certaines estimations. On parle aujourd'hui de un enfant sur 10 qui serait en situation de handicap à travers le monde et en Afrique en particulier. En Afrique de l'Est et du Sud, on parle de 29 millions d'enfants environ. En Afrique de l'Ouest, on parle de 41 millions d'enfants environ. Et il y a aussi les enfants réfugiés, où on parle d'environ 14 millions. Donc, il y a des données globale des estimations, mais on ne sait pas exactement quels sont les problèmes spécifiques de ces enfants-là. Donc, du coup, une fois que ces groupes-là restent invisibles, c'est difficile vraiment d'apporter des solutions appropriées pour ces groupes d'enfants. Et il y a aussi les enfants qui se retrouvent dans des situations de fragilité et de conflit, les pays qui sont en crise. Et ces enfants-là, c'est encore plus difficile de les identifier également. Et l'autre problème, en plus de l'absence des données, il y a le problème des plans et des stratégies qui doivent exister pour pouvoir adresser ces problèmes-là. Parce que on ne peut pas s'attendre à un miracle et que ces problèmes vont être résolus juste par la magie des choses. Il faut vraiment une vision, il faut vraiment une stratégie qui place l'inclusion au centre des actions pour intégrer les enfants au niveau des écoles. Et l'autre aspect que j'ai remarqué également, c'est comment planifier les ressources, parce que l'équité, parfois, ça coûte un peu plus cher. Donc, du coup, comment est-ce que les systèmes nationaux budgétisent, prévoient les ressources nécessaires pour aider ces enfants-là? Et le dernier point que je voulais faire, c'est aussi la capacité. Je crois que les panélistes l'ont mentionné. Comment s'assurer que les enseignants eux-mêmes ils ont qu'ils aient la capacité vraiment d'encadrer ces enfants-là. Il y a deux choses. Il y a les principes de l'éducation inclusive, mais aussi il y a aussi la formation sur l'utilisation des outils clés pour accompagner ces enfants-là au jour le jour. Et parfois, ça fait défaut également. Donc, dans les pays où je travaillais, il y a des avancées, c'est vrai. Il y a des efforts pour identifier de plus en plus les enfants en situation de handicap ou les enfants qui sont en milieu rural ou les réfugiés, mais en même temps, ces éléments-là que je viens de mentionner, que ce soit les données, que ce soit les systèmes de planification et les ressources nécessaires pour accompagner ces enfants-là et les capacités, beaucoup de fois, ça fait défaut. Je vais m'arrêter là. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Evans. Mais on n'a toujours pas eu la comparaison, cela dit. On a compris qu'il y a beaucoup de lacunes, mais en termes de comparaison, est-ce qu'il y a des pays ou des régions, puisque vous avez parlé d'Afrique de l'Ouest centrale et de l'Est, qui sont peut-être un petit peu plus développées, où on a plus d'espoir que d'autres?
Ah oui, bon, en tout cas, moi, j'ai deux ou trois exemples. J'ai vu des programmes, par exemple, en Afrique du Sud ou au Kenya ou même au Rwanda, où il y a eu quand même un effort d'identifier ces enfants-là. Et également, il y a eu des efforts où, par exemple, ils ont pu établir, puisque les enfants, et spécialement les enfants qui sont en situation de handicap, ils ont d'autres problèmes que l'éducation. Ils ont pu mettre en place un système de référencement. Ça veut dire que l'enseignant peut identifier, faire un premier diagnostic et avoir les services sous la main pour pouvoir référer ces enfants-là à ces services pour avoir un accompagnement plus soutenu. Après, il y a eu des initiatives assez intéressantes où, peut-être Fernando va en parler, quand moi j'ai travaillé à l'UNICEF, il y avait le programme où on essayait de s'assurer que les livres qui sont utilisés à l'école sont accessibles à tous les enfants. Il y a eu un programme comme ça au Rwanda qui était très positif. Et également, je sais par exemple en Uruguay, il y a un programme où ils essaient d'utiliser l'intelligence artificielle pour vraiment s'assurer que tous les matériels qui vont être utilisés à l'école sont accessibles et que les enfants peuvent en profiter. Il y a beaucoup d'exemples pareils, mais après, je dois vous dire, je ne vais pas nommer les pays, mais il y a certains pays où la formation des enseignants n'était pas adéquate. Et il y avait même pas il s'était même pas intégré dans le programme de formation des enseignants. Il y avait juste les principes de l'éducation inclusive, mais pas une formation vraiment appropriée pour pouvoir prendre en charge ces enfants-là.
So, Evans, you spoke about Kenya, and I believe Irene is originally from Kenya, and Enable is based in Kenya. It would be interesting to also have your perspective, Irene. How do you identify the groups that we are referring to and examine their representation in education systems? Or do you work only with specific groups? Can you tell us more about that?
So for us, our main group is actually students who are blind and low vision, because that's where our story began. And on a daily basis, we have set up assistive technology computer labs in schools for the blind in Kenya. And on a regular day, we have about 1,000 students taking digital skills training. I'll say this, for a blind student to learn digital skills, it could take them 6 months to learn the keyboard only. But once they learn, they're unstoppable. So that's one of the programs that we have. And it's fascinating because we even have kids who do coding, and you'll find them on YouTube doing their own thing. So they have access to information. And there's nothing as important as independence in this digital age. The other group that we have a keen focus on currently is the deaf and hard of hearing. And for this one in particular is because what you find sometimes in schools for the deaf is that some kids who come to school don't understand sign language. And as you all know, sign language is very complex. It varies. In one country, you can have multiple types of sign language. And then think about all the African countries we have. You can be in a session and you don't even understand the sign language that's going on. So what we've done in this particular school as a pilot project is we've implemented large screen monitors in classrooms, and we are using the Google AI captions, live captions. So as some of the teachers are speaking, if a student doesn't know sign language, guess what? They have the content streaming for them right there. And it's made a huge difference. And what I'm trying to say is, as we use technology, as we educate students, we have to provide different types of resources. Let students have the option to choose between Braille, between technology and something else. But we cannot continue to use one size fits all, which is a very traditional way of education in Africa. But I'm saying this to say a group that really struggles is the neurodiverse group, if you think about it, because we have a one-size-fits-all strategy in our education system, most education systems in Africa. Yet, if you're neurodiverse and everybody else, people learn in different ways, different methods. Some people are faster, some people are slower, some people get overwhelmed. So I think it's critical that as a continent, different countries, we really relook how are we teaching and which groups we make sure that we are not using a one-size-fits-all strategy in education. Let me stop there.
Yes, we know that's what you advocate for. And can you just tell us more about the progresses that have been made since Enable started, from where you come from and how it's the situation now?
Yes, fantastic. So we started off in 2009, and it was a simple idea. I got inspired and realized that the students who are blind only graduate with Braille skills. So I was trying to figure out how can they get into employment with Braille skills only. And that's how technology came into play. So to date, we've been able to train over 14,000 blind and low vision students, including their teachers, because teachers are the pillars of the education system. And this has gone very well. But in the process, we realized even as they graduate, they cannot access content because they have the skills, they're able to use open source applications, but they can't access information. So we realized we have to focus on digital accessibility. So Enable worked with the Kenyan government to develop Kenya's digital accessibility standard. And I'm proud to say Kenya is the only country in Africa with a digital accessibility standard. So this means that as as companies, as businesses, as organizations build and design digital products, they have guidelines about what's expected for them. So for me, that's a huge success. And what we continue to do is we continue to convene persons with disabilities, private sector companies, banks, and everybody else to come together at Inclusive Africa Conference, which we host every year, to really talk about what is digital accessibility? What does it mean? How does it apply to education? How does it apply to financial products and services so that we make sure people are independent to transact regardless of their disability? So those are some of the achievements we've had, but we still have a very long way to go. And the one thing I can say is, what we have can be replicated in any other country in Africa, not Kenya only. So anyone who's interested, please, we're more than open to share how we do it, and you can have similar programs, because it's really about getting the children the right foundation so that they're able to compete like everyone else in the future. Thank you.
Yes, I like what you said about giving them the opportunities, actually. Fernando, can we hear from you, your reaction to what your companies just said, and especially if you can also dive into your own experience as a former blind student yourself? It would be interesting to have your point of view as well.
Thank you so much. Well, I couldn't agree more. I think they've brought up the many variables that have to come together for any student to be able to get a great education, because we're not just talking about disability, right? We're talking about human diversity. So every great teacher knows that each individual child has a different style, a different way of learning. So children with disabilities just have more unusual requirements. And those requirements sometimes are very simple. And this is why I emphasize a lot the need for training for teachers, the need for a positive, constructive attitude for everyone working with children with disabilities, because sometimes it's just a matter of sharing information with one another. If you can imagine, just about every smartphone these days has a screen reader already pre-installed. And a lot of times people are not even aware that this is available for free in every phone. And what makes a difference? Well, what makes a difference is people talking to one another and helping one another. I'm originally from Brazil. And when I went to school, this was the 1980s, 1970s, 1980s, and a lot of technology, a lot of things were not available to me. And what made the greatest difference was the teachers, the administrators giving me a chance to respond to tests verbally, to have oral question and answer sessions, and other adjustments to my routine. Of course, technology is absolutely amazing. You have artificial intelligence, for example, where it allows you to transform information into accessible formats, as has been shared by Evans and others. But all that technology, especially when it's brand new, we need to learn how to use it. We need to see its limitations, understand its limitations, so that children are not exposed to information that is not appropriate or to information that is not accurate. So at this point, at this moment in time, we have to make sure that artificial intelligence is used by teachers or by content creators that understand what's a high quality lesson, what's high quality information, and are able to filter out any mistakes, any problems that may come of the use of artificial intelligence. In other words, no matter the level of the technology, the need for talented, committed, dedicated people remains. And this is an area where our countries, and I'm talking about the global south, low and middle income countries, we are strong in this. We have in every country, we have families that have children with disabilities that have found ways forward. And I think one of the key elements that is needed is for those families and those schools that have found a way forward, a way to do inclusive education, that they share, and that we have forums, online and offline forums, where the experiences can be shared and everyone can benefit from the best that technology can offer.
Yes, you spoke about creativity. Can you just share one example of a creative tool before tech came into your life specifically?
Well, there are so many. I used to use little cassette recorders that to take my notes, to record everything. More recently, we are using smartphones to read certain texts because it has OCR capabilities, image recognition capabilities. Sometimes just sharing files on something as simple as WhatsApp, pre-recorded texts. So the interesting thing is that these days the technology has it's multimodal by nature, right? So for those that have difficulty hearing, you can easily share images. For those that have difficulty seeing, you can easily share audio. And at the end of the day, it's about sharing those tricks with one another, sharing the information, and having an attitude of problem solving, right? In my experience, I've had situations where I did not have very good access to technology, and I had situations where I had talking computers, and I had the white cane I use every day. And I think the difference was precisely the fact that I had people giving me the tips and the suggestions of how to use that technology to its full potential. And it doesn't always have to be high technology, right? The difference that a simple white cane made in my life, allowing me to walk around confidently, get to school, now that I'm an adult, get to the office and go to meetings, that's hugely powerful and is just as important as the high technology.
Absolutely. Thank you, Fernando, for sharing that. So I just want to say that we are about 500 participants now, a little bit more maybe, because the last time I checked, it was 500 people joining. And most of them are already typing in the chat box. So we have people from joining us from Ethiopia. I just want to acknowledge their presence, Equatorial Guinea, I believe Burkina Faso as well. Welcome, everyone. We're very happy to have you all here today. Nigeria is here as well. Usually Nigeria is there. So I'm very glad that Nigeria didn't miss the appointment. I would like to also take this opportunity to open the conversation to the audience. Dear participants, you should see a message popping on your screen. Now, you can take a minute to answer. There is a question for you. The question should appear on your screen. Voilà. It's a quiz. You know we like that at Ecobank. Which of the following best illustrates the role of technology in promoting inclusive education? Parmi les propositions suivantes, laquelle illustre le mieux le rôle de la technologie dans la promotion de l'apprentissage inclusif? Vous ne pouvez répondre qu'à une seule option. Alors, soit 1, remplacer les enseignants par l'intelligence artificielle. 2, limiter l'accès des étudiants aux outils digitaux. 3, fournir des outils permettant aux élèves handicapés de suivre le même programme que leurs camarades. Ou 4, créer des environnements d'apprentissage séparés pour les élèves handicapés. Just take a minute to read the question and proposed answers, the options. Unfortunately, the panelists can't vote. I believe it's too easy for them. I cannot vote either, and it's not even easy for me, but that's how it is. So just a couple of more minutes just for everyone to get a chance to answer. So to reply, you just need to click on the button near the answers. You can see the bubbles, or how it's called, and don't respond in the chat box, please. Otherwise, your reply will not be taken into account. Let's give it 20 seconds more, maybe. Then we should have the results. Voilà, the time is up. The time is up. We should have the answers very soon. So this was just to make sure that everybody is following. And I think it's really interesting. Well, the panelists couldn't answer, but I believe you know the answer, right? Evans, est-ce que vous avez une idée des réponses, de la bonne réponse?
J'imagine, hein, j'ai lu, je pense qu'il y a une des réponses qui disait que la technologie, c'est pour aider à ce que tous les enfants, y compris ceux qui sont en situation de handicap, en fait, qu'ils aient accès aux services éducatifs. Bon, j'ai paraphrasé un peu, mais je pense que ça doit être la bonne réponse.
Oui, je pense aussi que c'est la bonne réponse. Félicitations. Félicitations, vous êtes le porte-parole des panélistes. Effectivement, c'était la bonne réponse, la troisième réponse. Et on va continuer donc notre discussion. C'était vraiment juste une parenthèse pour inclure un petit peu tout le monde dans la conversation. J'aimerais bien qu'on aille au-delà un petit peu de l'accès, de l'accessibilité. Est-ce que on peut définir ce que c'est que la technologie assistive? Evan, puisque vous nous avez donné la réponse, je vais retourner vers Fernando, sauf si vous voulez répondre. Mais Fernando, I'm back again. Can you tell us what assistive technology means in very simple terms, as you do it
Sure.
very well, and how you first became familiar with it? You started to answer it just, previously, but just for us to understand better.
Sure. Well, assistive technology are devices and services that help persons who have a disability or a functional limitation do things as everybody else. So let me give you an example. It does not have to be somebody with a disability, right? If you're wearing eyeglasses, you're using an assistive technology. Now, for both those who have a disability, then the devices are a little different as well. So a wheelchair is a form of assistive technology, a walking cane, and so many others, a hearing aid, and a talking computer. Now, there are tools of everyday life that you may be using them as a form of assistive technology. So just a note-taking, a piece of paper with a pen, if you have a cognitive impairment that makes it difficult for you to remember things, if you're using that note-taking, that notebook, just to keep track of the things you need to remember to finish your day, that's a type of assistive technology. So it's really about the way you use it, not just only about the device itself.
Very good. It's very, very clear. Thank you. And can you share how inclusive design and community collaboration can create technology that serves diverse physical, cultural, linguistic, and cognitive needs? Also started
Yes.
with that, but what
Well,
is
I think the way the way we design our society makes a big difference, not just for those of us who have a disability, but for everyone. So when you have a ramp that allows somebody with a wheelchair to enter a classroom or go onto a sidewalk, that ramp will not just help that person that has a physical impairment, but it will help those that have pushing a baby carriage, or those that are pulling suitcases, and so forth. So there are many designs like that we refer to as universal design that have a great impact for everyone, not just those with disabilities. This happens also in the digital realm. There are ways of designing, as our panelists have mentioned, there are ways of designing websites, there are ways of presenting a file, a document on the digital realm that are accessible, and then there are ways that are not very accessible. So the way we make assistive technology extremely useful is making sure that our environment is accessible.
You're muted, Raisa.
Sorry about that. And thank you, Fernando. And thank you, Evans, for letting me know I was talking by myself. So Evans and Irene, you might want to react to what Fernando just said, or maybe if you would like to share examples of situations where poorly designed tools unintentionally created new barriers. Yeah, Irene, because we speak in English. So Irene, maybe you want to take this, and then Evans can answer in French afterwards.
Yeah, thank you for this question. I think it's very critical, and I'll address what I'm currently working on. If you ask me today, I think as humanity and as businesses, we've gotten extremely excited about technology, and we've put technology before humanity, meaning that we're designing products first, and then people, the users, come second. And what you find, and especially in the financial sector, they have all these fancy products with too much going on, locking a lot of users out. Most people just spend 20 seconds just trying to get into an application and they're out. Sometimes you'll find most of the application you only do one thing or two things and that's it. The issue is access. By the time you try to log in, you're bombarded by so much that you don't even know where to go. Unfortunately, if you use a screen reader, and this is an example I'll talk about because I was in South Africa recently, and a friend of mine, he's blind. He was taking me to lunch and he said, Irene, am I holding my bank card or am I holding my ID? Why? Because he doesn't know, because it's not accessible. But number two, for him to be able to even use his banking mobile application, as soon as he's logging in, the first thing it says is, are you giving your information to someone to use, to log in for you? Please confirm it's you. And all the time he has to confirm, but he has to give his mobile application to somebody else to log in for him. Why? Because it's not designed with him in mind. So right there, we steal away his independence. We expose him to everything and anything else that financial services try to protect in terms of safety and security. And why am I saying this? Because if we designed with people in mind first, what are my needs? What do I want to do? And then from there, what is my user experience? And then from there, we can be able to deliver on the products and people can be able to use products independently. So it's important that as we develop all these digital products, whether in education, employment, financial services, health, we focus on accessibility, on the user experience of people. So we put humanity at the center of design. Thank you.
Very critical indeed. And thank you for sharing this recent experience with your friend. And it's quite common. It's a common situation. And it's actually very interesting to see how things can be addressed differently when you have everybody in mind. Evans, je vais également vous demander de réagir alors à ce qu'ont dit Fernando et Irène. Est-ce qu'il y a des situations ou des exemples d'outils technologiques qui ont été mal faits, mal créés, mal conçus, ou en tout cas conçus en créant de nouvelles barrières au lieu de les ôter, les barrières?
Oui, non, c'est pour abonder dans le même sens. En fait, quand j'ai retracé un peu les différentes technologies que j'ai vues, les plateformes d'apprentissage que j'ai vues au tout début, jusque dans les années, je sais, de 2014-2015, jusque-là, la plupart des plateformes d'apprentissage ne prenaient pas en compte les besoins de tous les enfants en général. Bon, il y avait les technologies d'assistance les barrières, c'était plutôt lié au coût. C'était très élevé, pas tout le monde pouvait avoir accès aux technologies d'assistance. Et maintenant, au niveau des plateformes elles-mêmes, elles ne prenaient pas en compte les besoins de tous les enfants. Et pour moi, c'est deux choses différentes. Et si on veut arriver à réduire les coûts et avoir l'enfant au centre du développement de ces outils-là, c'est là où il faut commencer effectivement à essayer d'aller à l'échelle et intégrer ces capacités-là dans ces outils-là. Parce qu'on ne va pas pouvoir acheter des technologies d'assistance à tout le monde. Il va falloir vraiment, quand on essaie de vraiment développer ces outils-là, intégrer toutes ces fonctions, toutes ces fonctionnalités. Et encore, j'ai toujours dans ma position au niveau du partenariat mondial, je veux pas préciser ou indiquer quel outil a été développé qui n'a pas pris en compte ces aspects-là, mais je dois vous dire effectivement, quand j'ai commencé, j'ai vu pas mal de plateformes d'apprentissage et qui prenaient pas en compte ces aspects-là. Et c'était très compliqué pour ces enfants-là. Même quand les autres utilisaient leur tablette, eux-mêmes, ils étaient juste à côté, ils faisaient rien, en fait, parce que c'était pas approprié pour leur propre apprentissage.
Donc, en fait, on continue de construire au fur et à mesure qu'on avance, de tirer des leçons et j'espère de les adresser pour les corriger.
Ouais.
Alors, on va passer effectivement aussi à un autre sujet que vous avez tous abordé un petit peu. Il s'agit des infrastructures euh, et, et aussi du développement durable en fait de ces technologies. Est-ce que la technologie seule peut vraiment combler les gaps, les vides sans un investissement important dans la connectivité? Vous avez parlé de votre expérience au Rwanda. Vous m'aviez raconté quand on préparait ce webinaire que il y avait une école en haut d'une colline et un enfant qui était en chaise roulante et qui pouvait difficilement accéder à l'école puisque bah, la situation de l'école était compliquée. Donc, est-ce qu'on peut vraiment, dans ces cas-là, utiliser, est-ce que la technologie sert à quelque chose s'il n'y a pas de connectivité ou si on est dans une zone rurale où il n'y a pas d'accès à Internet, par exemple, si on n'a pas le bon training, les bonnes formations pour les enseignants ou le corps enseignant, voilà, comment est-ce qu'on peut faire quand la technologie est là, mais que l'investissement fait défaut?
Euh, non, c'est une très bonne question. Ça nous dit également que prendre, pour bénéficier des atouts positifs de la technologie, ça commence pas par la technologie, ça commence plutôt avec une bonne planification, une bonne vision pour pouvoir identifier la bonne technologie et au bon moment. Et l'autre aspect, c'est que la technologie ne va pas tout résoudre pour nous. Il faut vraiment mettre la technologie là où ça peut faire une différence. Parce qu'on a bien dit dans le quiz tout à l'heure que la technologie peut pas remplacer les enseignants, ça peut pas remplacer une bonne stratégie, ça peut pas remplacer une bonne vision. Et c'est là qu'il faut vraiment être très intelligent dans la façon où on essaie d'utiliser la technologie. Et on sait que dans la plupart de nos pays, il y a un problème d'accès à l'Internet, comme vous l'avez bien dit, Raïssa. Il y a un problème d'accès aux appareils également. Et parfois même la géographie également. L'exemple que vous avez mentionné, où l'école, c'était sur une colline et les enfants en chaise roulante, c'était très difficile. S'il n'y avait pas quelqu'un pour pousser, parfois c'est très... Donc, du coup, comment ramener l'école chez cet enfant-là? Et également, comment utiliser aussi la technologie qui est disponible dans la maison? Tout à l'heure, Fernando disait qu'un un stylo, un morceau de papier, c'est de la technologie. Et également, dans pas mal de villages, c'est un téléphone portable qui n'est même pas smart. Donc, comment utiliser ce téléphone portable pour pouvoir aider ces enfants-là à avoir accès à l'école? Et j'ai vu des exemples où, même avec des SMS, les enfants sont en mesure d'apprendre et les parents sont en mesure de les aider. Donc, il y a vraiment tout un écosystème autour de la technologie elle-même et pouvoir positionner la technologie où ça peut faire une différence. Et c'est là où je pense que les plateformes qui sont en train d'être développées, où on n'a pas besoin d'avoir accès à l'Internet, où c'est construit sur la base de ce que les gens ont dans leur communauté elles-mêmes. Donc, du coup, je pense que ces technologies ont plus de chances d'arriver un peu plus loin. Et je vais m'arrêter là.
Merci beaucoup, Evans. Effectivement, on peut imaginer un petit peu. Euh, donc, effectivement, on peut partir du stylo et du papier comme technologie assistive jusqu'à effectivement l'ordinateur qui parle et les outils et les gadgets super high-tech, évidemment, qu'on peut aussi imaginer. Alors, comme il ne reste pas beaucoup de temps, je voudrais m'adresser à tous. Donc, je vais commencer par vous, Evans, comme ça, vous gardez la parole et ensuite on passe aux autres. Est-ce que vous pouvez penser à une solution, hein. Vous avez commencé un peu, je dirais pas cher, une solution qui soit pas très chère et qui soit innovante pour pouvoir travailler un petit peu même dans des endroits qui sont limités en termes d'infrastructure. Euh, Peut-être, vous avez parlé des plateformes sans Internet, peut-être développer un petit peu sur ce genre de solutions qui peuvent exister.
En fait, j'ai été en contact avec des amis qui font de la recherche sur comment déjà développer des applications basées sur l'intelligence artificielle sans Internet où ils arrivent à collecter certaines données au niveau local et entraîner l'application pour pouvoir vraiment aider les enfants, soit à apprendre un peu mieux ou à aider les enseignants à encadrer les enfants. Et je pense que maintenant, il y a cette possibilité d'éviter ce qu'on appelle les grands modèles qui nécessitent des données qui doivent être sur Internet et tout. Il y a quand même cette avancée-là. Et pour le faire, et je pense qu'il y a quand même certaines opportunités. J'ai vu qu'ils ont testé un modèle pareil en Sierra Leone, par exemple. Et je pense qu'il y a quand même pas mal d'opportunités pour utiliser ces outils-là qui peuvent être développés où on n'a pas besoin de grandes infrastructures pour les mettre en œuvre. Mais encore, parfois, l'innovation, peut-être que c'est pas au niveau de la technologie, peut-être c'est dans la façon de faire, c'est dans la façon de déployer la technologie, c'est dans l'état d'esprit des gens qui encadrent des enfants en situation de handicap ou ceux qui vivent en milieu rural. Parfois, on cherche vraiment l'innovation dans la technologie elle-même, mais parfois, la technologie, c'est peut-être, nous, on doit juste on doit juste agir de façon différente, en fait. Et pour moi, je pense que c'est important de dire la technologie va résoudre tous les problèmes, c'est vrai, mais si nous, on ne change pas d'avis comment on fait les choses, et la technologie a ses limites également, sans compter les biens.
Et puis, vous avez parlé de gouvernance aussi tout à l'heure.
Ouais.
De gouvernance, vous avez parlé de politique, de cohérence politique. Là-dessus, il y a peut-être un message aussi à faire passer, puisque ça fait partie des missions qui étaient les vôtres, si j'ai bien compris.
Oui, oui, bien sûr. Et beaucoup de fois, on voit, il y a une politique nationale de l'éducation. En plus, après, ils font une politique sur l'éducation inclusive de façon séparée. Alors qu'on devrait avoir une seule politique qui qui considère l'inclusion dès le départ. Et c'est comme ça qu'on essaie de changer les états d'esprit, comment aborder cette question-là. Et pour moi, il y a lieu de faire des innovations également, même dans la façon également de collecter les données pour prendre les décisions, pour accompagner les enfants en situation de handicap. On n'a pas parlé des réfugiés aujourd'hui ici, mais n'oublions pas que les enfants en situation de handicap, ce sont aussi des filles, ce sont des enfants réfugiés, ce sont des enfants aussi qui sont dans des milieux ruraux ou difficiles d'accès. Donc, il faut voir l'innovation pour moi vraiment dans toutes ces dimensions-là et lorsqu'on le voit de cette manière-là, les opportunités sont grandes en fait pour innover. Et, et, et et quand on sent que c'est pas possible de le faire, c'est là il y a une opportunité d'innovation. Si on sent un peu insécure et on se dit, ah oui, bon, ça, on est en train d'innover parce qu'on est insécure et c'est pas facile d'innover. Pour moi, c'est vraiment important d'avoir ce mindset-là et pouvoir avancer.
Fernando, I saw you nod. You might want to add to it. Can you highlight as well, if you do have some to share, highlight innovative low resource solutions that work even in areas with limited infrastructure, for example?
Apologies, this was for me, this question?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, apologies.
It's
So
only-
yes, absolutely. The most affordable technology, because when we think about technology, we think about something that is very powerful and that it solves problems for us. But at the end of the day, technology, what it does is that it amplifies our powers. And what do I mean by that? A technology cannot replace wisdom, cannot replace good decisions, good planning, thoughtful creativity. Um, Technology will just magnify whatever we are doing in the first place. So we must still have this care with which we approach things. We need to be able to talk to one another. That is the most affordable, scalable, sustainable technology and most powerful technology in the world is conversation, is listening to what the student needs. It's listening to what the teacher needs. It's listening to what each of them have to contribute and ways in which they can contribute. Innovation does not have to always be just technological. Innovation can be the way we organize our classrooms, the way we organize our schools, the way we distribute technology or content or any number of other resources. Because that's what at the end of the day makes a huge amount of difference. And that's where our countries in the global south are able to have the greatest and most immediate impact is on our human resources. The way we collaborate and work with one another, that to me is the most affordable and powerful technology that there can ever be. Imagine just sharing a limited resource more efficiently between different groups, different people. That sharing, it's not something that is determined by technology, it's determined by culture, by our behavior. And that, to me, is the way forward. Because no matter what technology we are using, we are always going to need that ability to work together and help one another.
Thank you. That's a powerful message. Thank you, Fernando. And Irene, you last but obviously not least, of course, what about you? Can you highlight some innovative low resource solutions that maybe you came across at the annual conference that you organize on inclusivity?
Yeah, thank you. And I want to just emphasize what Evans and Fernando have said. Technology is just a tool. It's not the absolute solution. And humanity comes first. We're designing for human beings. So if we start from what are the needs of the people we are designing for, then we can develop tools that work for them, not the other way around. And something I want to also say is that teachers are the pillars to education. I think I remember some time back when we were talking so much of tech in education and people were thinking of replacing teachers with technology. And I think now it's evidently clear it will never happen. And it's the same situation with AI today. There's all this vibe about AI, but the reality is AI cannot replace what the teacher brings to the table. And I say this having visited recently in South Africa, the South Africa School for Autism, where you have all kids over 400 who are autistic, and the amazing work that these teachers are doing. No matter how much tech you bring into the school, you cannot replace them. You can only help improve how they teach, reduce the amount of workload they have, and also track progress for students. So we have to think about these tools as nothing but tools that can help us improve the quality of education. Now, when I get to thinking about some of the innovations we have, by the way, that's something we host at Inclusive Africa Conference. We normally have something we call the AT Village, the Assistive Technology Village. And it's made up of African innovators who've developed assistive technologies that work in Africa. And most of these people are actually inspired by their grandmother, by their brother, by their sister, by someone. And they improvise and come up with really, really amazing solutions. So I'm saying this to say, there's one of them, Ikitabu Digital Storytime. They create stories and use sign language to deliver to young kids who are deaf in education. They're very popular. And that's really powerful because we're using storytelling to educate students. But we're forgetting we need sign language and local sign language, not international sign language or something else, but local customized cultural sign language for these kids to understand. Another powerful tool we have is one called Signverse, where they've created avatars for real-time captioning, because we all understand sign language is very expensive and it's not affordable and you can't scale it. But now they've created avatars that you can use on videos. On a video like this, there should be an avatar or a sign language person, so that if there's someone who's deaf, they have another way of receiving information, not just people who are deaf. If you think about captions, they were started for people who are deaf and hard of hearing. But the reality is, all of us use captions at some point every day, whether it's on short videos, we are watching videos somewhere, or you're trying to communicate anything. So even on our own mobile phones, we're constantly using captions. So I'm trying to say this to say that as we design, let's remember some of the designs that we come up with actually benefit more than just those with disabilities. They include everyone. So let's continue to design with disability in mind, with humanity at the center of design, and we'll be able to have digital products that are usable for most people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Irene. I believe some participants have some questions or remarks to share. This is really interesting, and I don't want to share the floor, but I have to, because you guys are so interesting. So now I'm gonna ask the participants to ask their questions, share their opinions in the chat box. We have about 15 minutes. Yes, 15 minutes for this Q&A. Please address your question to the panelist that you would like to answer. And I will be able to read out a few questions and let the panelists answer, sorry. Voilà, je vais le dire aussi en français. Vous pouvez poser vos questions, partager votre opinion. Nous avons environ 15 minutes pour cette session de questions-réponses. Alors, je vais vous demander d'adresser votre question aux panélistes dont vous souhaitez une réponse, s'il vous plaît. Et puis moi, je lirai les questions et puis nous laisserons donc nos panélistes répondre. Alors, je vais regarder tout de suite dans la chat box. So there is one question. Somalia has one of the best internet connectivity rates in Africa, yet learners with disabilities still face major barriers to accessing inclusive digital education. How can technology and AI be localized and adapted to harness Somalia's strong digital infrastructure to ensure that children with disabilities benefit equally from this connectivity revolution? So this question has not been addressed to anyone, but I want to ask to address the question to Evans, maybe.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good question, and a good case to see that sometimes infrastructure is there and technology is not being leveraged. I mean, if I assume that Somalia has, I mean, based on the question that was asked, that it says that Somalia has one of the best internet connectivity. So this also supports the point that it starts with the understanding of the needs of the education sector, especially the learners with disabilities. And because someone has to make the decisions. And as Fernando said, and technology will amplify the good decision, or it could amplify bad decisions, or it could be neutral. That's the one thing. So, and the other thing we didn't really talk about, it's around the change management. When we say, okay, technology can accelerate our efforts in education, and how do we ensure this is happening? How do we, make this change happen? And this is where having a good change management strategy, what I mean by that is that making sure that you are co-designing, you're co-creating the solutions with everyone. And I think it was said earlier, we said it, humanity at the center, users at the center, but in this case, it's more like the whole education community or beyond the education community, how we are co-creating, having a common understanding of the problem, co-creating together and making sure the solution is accepted and adopted. I've seen situations where I have worked on a system to manage teachers, for example. Before, the way it used to be done is that they would to allocate teachers to school, they would go to a room for a week outside of the city, and they would manually allocate teachers to schools. And then when we worked on the teacher management information system, they were reluctant to use it because they're like, why would we use that when we've been doing it that way? So this project had a problem at the beginning, is that we did not co-create the system with them to show them the utility, how this system would help them be more efficient. So it's one thing, I think, in the case of Somalia, as the question was phrased, I think this vision and also co-creation with people together to make sure that the solutions are adopted, I think these are very key to make sure that you leverage technology as you should, especially for children with disabilities.
I want to go to Irene for the next question. That is a question from Ganyet Layen. Ganyet said, thank you, Irene, for what you do for the neurodivergent community whose disability, in the comments, is not obvious or may even go unnoticed. How do you think technology can be helpful to them, especially in school?
Oh, that's a really good question. And as we said earlier, neurodiverse is one section that we are yet to figure it out. We've been focusing a lot on other disabilities. So it's still a learning experience. And what comes to mind to me very quickly is two things. Number one is sometimes, depending with your disability, you get very overwhelmed. So there are applications out there that students can actually use for reading, where it highlights specific sections where they are reading and they can follow through without feeling too overwhelmed by content. And that alone is a very, very critical tool. And it's an AI-based tool, but it's a very, very critical tool in terms of making sure that a child is able to consume just what they need and not looking at a page and feeling, oh my God, this is just too much information for me, but just going steps by step in terms of that. The other piece where neurodiverse people can benefit is especially in note-taking, even when a teacher is speaking. Sometimes we all get overwhelmed and we're just busy trying to take notes because the teacher is speaking very, very good points. But for someone who's neurodiverse, that experience can be overwhelming. So having an AI-based tool that can actually take notes and summarize what the teacher is trying to say instead of word by word, that can be a very, very critical tool to also use in a classroom. So there are many, many tools out there. What I feel is the challenge is that African governments have really not invested in technology in classrooms for students with disabilities. Because if they do that, they'll focus on the various disabilities, they'll focus on training of teachers and many other aspects of education. I'll give you an example. Kenya has sort of picked up track in a way where they have this education where we call CBC. And one of the requirements is technology in classrooms and everything. But if you go into schools, there's no technology. So even when they're being taught anything to do with technology, it's very theoretical. So how do we get African governments to really invest in that space so that we can we don't expect magic overnight, but we do know that if we begin the steps, and the only way you can scale is through government, then we can make progress over time. Thank you.
Thank you, Irene. We have also, I would say not really a question, but just a sharing experience. Librada Ela Asumu. Librada said it can be challenging for disabled children, in the first step, to just being joined to students with no special needs. My perception that they must be separate, and when they are strong enough, they can be mixed. Then they can be together. Fernando, maybe you want to take this one. What do you think of that?
Well,
Yeah,
that's an interesting.
Separating children and then maybe have them join and work together.
Yeah, so this is a very common concern that a child that has no disability will learn less because another child with a disability is in the same classroom or maybe will be distracted. And the reality is that children are so much more flexible and knowledgeable than we can ever imagine. So when you are presenting information in a, let's say, in a verbal manner, because a child is not able to see, or when you're presenting information purely in a visual way, because a child is not able to hear, this type of flexibility of presenting the same content in different ways actually helps other children that do not have a disability. We all know, as adults, we all have met people that do not have a disability, and yet they prefer to listen to books, recorded books in audio, in the car, or in another context, because they don't enjoy reading so much. Or maybe they enjoy reading, but they need a very quiet space to read. Otherwise, they cannot focus. So the reality is that every one of us, even those of us that do not have any disability, we have different ways of learning. And when you have an educational system, a classroom that is flexible enough to help children with disabilities, that classroom will also be helpful for every other child in the classroom, even those that do not have a disability. Because it is, as I said earlier, about human diversity. And if we're able to meet that diversity where in the ways that they need it, in the way that they require it, every child will have the benefit of it. And also, let's also remember that a child, the most powerful thing in a child is his or her imagination. It's his or her ability to learn quickly. The more exposure that they have to different types of people, to people that can see, people that cannot see, people that speak 3 languages, people that speak only 1 language, people that speak with their hands, the more that they see of the world, the greater their imagination, their capabilities, their understanding of the world will be, and so much the better they will be prepared for that world.
Can I add something?
Yes, Irene, you want to add something? Sure.
Yeah. No, this is really interesting. I just wanted to share what's been going on in Kenya, which is really interesting, where schools for the blind, actually, you find a school has 300 or 500 students who are blind. They've admitted like 40 to 50 to 60 students who are sighted. And it's fascinating because what happens with students who are blind, when you speak to them, why they like being in schools for the blind is because nobody treats them like they're blind. They blend in because you have 500 blind students. You're not going to sit there and think about, oh, one student is blind. So they are treated as equal. But when they go to mainstream schools, they're discriminated against because nobody even notices they're there. But now with this new way of doing things where you bring in people who are sighted, you're actually coming to a blind environment and it's you to make the adjustment. But I agree with Fanado. When these students graduate, they're not going to go to a world for blindness only or deafness only. They're going to go into the real world. So it's important we start integrating them, using the tools. And I believe technology is a tool that can help us integrate, because for a blind student, if they have all the curriculum, if they have all the textbooks, everything they need, they can fit into a mainstream school if they want to go to a mainstream school. So it's very, very important we think about integration. It's just that we have to carefully do it to make sure that students with disabilities do not lose out on a solid foundation as they grow. Thank you.
Important not to discriminate anyone. There's another good question. I don't see the name of the participant. Are there global policies and frameworks that mandate governments and businesses adoption of inclusivity tools which aid learning and training? I don't know which one between maybe Fernando or Evans who would like to take this one.
Yes, so there are standards, there are global standards for all these things. So there is the UN, United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, that establishes the rights that every child has, including those with disabilities, to access education, transportation, all kinds of activities in life. And these rights, if you're looking at it from a technical perspective, for example, there are accessibility standards designed by the World Wide Web Consortium, the W3C. They are called the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, WCAG. So these, for technical people that are not sure how to move forward, how to improve the way they design the interfaces in a smartphone app or a web page, or just a document, a PDF document, for example. There are guidelines online, it's easy to search, that explain to you how to make those documents accessible to everyone. And it doesn't have to reduce in any way the quality, the beauty of the way you're designing it, because a lot of those changes are not going to be visible for somebody who is not, who does not have a disability. It will be helpful for the technology that we use, the assistive technology we use, but it will not reduce in any way the functionality for those of you who do not need assistive technology.
Je peux ajouter un point là-dessus, Aïssa?
Bien sûr, Evans.
Non, c'est pour dire qu'au-delà des standards et des normes, je pense que pour les gouvernements, c'est vraiment un devoir moral, mais aussi il y a des bénéfices socio-économiques de s'assurer que les enfants en situation de handicap soient à l'école. Parce que dans certains cas, par exemple, un parent qui doit garder un enfant en situation de handicap à la maison, ce parent-là, parfois, ne peut pas travailler. Du coup, il y a un manque à gagner pour ce parent-là pour ne pas pouvoir aller au travail et gagner un peu d'argent et payer les taxes également au niveau de ce pays-là. Donc, il y a vraiment un gros avantage social et économique de s'assurer que tous les enfants soient intégrés dans une école inclusive. Et parfois, on n'a pas besoin vraiment d'avoir une forme de pression parce que les bénéfices sont très clairs, sont très évidents. Et pour les gouvernements, je pense que c'est ce niveau de sensibilisation également pour comprendre exactement les avantages des bénéfices de l'éducation, mais les bénéfices de l'éducation surtout pour les enfants et en situation de handicap. Il y a des recherches qui ont été faites qui prouvent vraiment comment les retours socio-économiques sont très grands quand les enfants en situation de handicap sont à l'école.
Une bonne prise en charge a des retombées sur sur l'ensemble de la société et notamment au niveau économique. C'est ça.
Ouais.
Alors, la question venait en fait de Olatoye Ogunjobi Merci Olatoye pour cette question. Il y a une autre question qui concerne la Zambie. Je vais juste lâcher. There's another question about Zambia. Let me just try and find it. Voilà. Zambia has reached peak sensitization on inclusiveness and disabilities. How can we use technology and AI to reach and educate more people about the different disabilities and how they can be remedied? How can we reach more people? How can we use technology and AI to reach and educate more people? Maybe the Inclusive Africa Conference is one way. Irene, what do you think?
No, thank you. Yeah. So there are many, many ways. And I believe each one of us has a responsibility, to anything small you share that goes such a long way, and you reach a community that nobody else can reach. So we cannot underestimate our individual power on an individual capacity, because it does make a difference, and we have more reach even compared to anything else we can imagine. But I also believe in various platforms like Inclusive Africa Conference, and the reason we created Inclusive Africa Conference is to create awareness about disability in Africa and digital accessibility and assistive technologies, because we realized sometimes what people think disability is, it's really not. When you think about employment, most businesses do not understand disability. They don't even know when they advertise for a job where to find a person with disability. When it comes to education, it's the same thing. Inclusive education is not properly understood. And sometimes it's only understood by those who are in that space. But how do we break barriers and mainstream disability, mainstream assistive technology knowledge, mainstream digital accessibility? And that's why you heard me talk a bit about financial services being a challenge for persons with disabilities, because I know as much as they have great education, they get great jobs, most of them cannot operate their individual bank accounts independently. So it's important you join us at Inclusive Africa Conference. We host it every year in Nairobi, Kenya, and you will find the international community, and you'll also find Africans from all walks of life, government, private sector, international organizations, and local organizations. So we're bringing all stakeholders together to understand disability in Africa and the role of technology in employment, education, and in digital products and services. So thank you so much for this.
Thank you. I think Fernando, Evans, and myself, and Ecobank, obviously, will be very happy to join the next African Inclusive Conference. Well, in the meantime, Librada, who's a very active participant, is also asking, how can we collaborate with GPE, Evans, with Enable, Irene, and with UNICEF, obviously, Fernando. Maybe we start with Fernando. How can we collaborate if we do have ideas or projects that we want to work with you? How can we do this?
Well, the best way is to reach out and contact the UNICEF country office in your country. We have offices in just about every country in the world, and we usually have in each country a person who is in charge of projects related to children with disabilities, or somebody that has that as one of their main responsibilities. So please reach out to your local country office of UNICEF and present your idea, talk about how to collaborate, and I'm sure very good things will come of it. Thank you.
Yes, don't be shy. Evans, how can we collaborate with GPE?
Oui, dans le cadre du partenariat mondial pour l'éducation, c'est dans le nom, c'est un partenariat. Par exemple, l'UNICEF, c'est aussi un membre du partenariat et on a plusieurs profils. Il y a les organisations de la société civile également, elles sont membres du partenariat. Et au niveau des pays, notre point d'entrée, c'est ce qu'on appelle le groupe local de l'éducation qui regroupe tous les partenaires de l'éducation. Et c'est une plateforme qu'on encourage. C'est là où il y a le dialogue politique. C'est là où on décide des actions à mener, des collaborations. Et effectivement, nos stratégies, c'est c'est guidé, c'est décidé par les pays eux-mêmes qui sont également membres du partenariat. Et on alloue des ressources dans certains cas à ces pays-là et les décisions sont faites au niveau pays. Moi, je dirais, c'est vraiment de rejoindre le groupe local de partenariat. Et maintenant, on a un bureau aussi au Kenya, un bureau régional au Kenya. Et Irene, tu peux aussi rentrer en contact avec le bureau régional et pour voir les opportunités de travail. En fait, les opportunités peuvent être à plusieurs niveaux, hein. Ça peut être de l'innovation, de l'assistance technique ou bien juste d'échanger, je pense. Donc, on a aussi ces opportunités-là qui existent et je pense que les partenaires ou les participants peuvent rejoindre ces groupes locaux de coordination de l'éducation. Et c'est un point d'entrée pour collaborer avec le GPE. Ouais.
Sure. Merci beaucoup. Irene, you've obviously you put the website address on the chat box, but please, how can we collaborate with you? In what ways? How can we reach Enable if we are in different countries, how can we do this?
Thank you. So you can contact us through our website, which is www.enable.org. And we also have the Inclusive Africa Conference website. If you just Google Inclusive Africa and there's a contact us page, please reach out to us and we can be able to communicate and see how we can collaborate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, participants. Apologies if your question has not been picked. We try to obviously share all the messages, but some of them have not been read, but still we've seen them. Please follow the Ecobank Foundation and all panelists on Ecobank LinkedIn and Facebook. You can continue the discussion there. That was such a thought-provoking Q&A. Thank you very much for your questions. And I would like to, before we leave, I would like to invite Ecobank Foundation CEO, Madame Elisa Desbordes-Cissé, to join us. Mesdames et messieurs, chers panélistes, merci beaucoup pour vos questions. Avant de nous séparer, je voudrais quand même laisser la parole à Madame Elisa Desbordes-Cissé, la directrice générale de la Fondation Ecobank, pour son mot de clôture.
Merci beaucoup, Raissa. Un grand merci de me donner la parole aujourd'hui. Donc, chers participantes, chers participants et chers collègues qui sont connectés actuellement en ligne, alors que nous arrivons au terme de cette rencontre, permettez-moi d'abord de vous remercier et d'exprimer toute ma gratitude pour votre participation et votre engagement. Les conversations ont vraiment été très, très intéressantes et je trouve que la session en particulier Q&A a été, comme vient de le dire la modératrice, très enrichissante et en même temps très, très challenging. Merci beaucoup pour cela. Au cours de ce webinaire, nous avons réfléchi ensemble au rôle que peuvent jouer la technologie et l'intelligence artificielle pour rendre l'éducation plus inclusive, en particulier pour les enfants en situation de handicap ou ayant des besoins spécifiques. Nous avons entendu, je pense, des témoignages inspirants, découvert des solutions concrètes, y compris en termes de low technologie ou sans technologie, et partagé des expériences qui montrent qu'une transformation est nécessairement possible, mais qu'elle est déjà en cours. Depuis 2023, notre campagne Transformer l'Afrique grâce à l'éducation s'appuie sur une conviction forte. La technologie, lorsqu'elle est utilisée à bon escient, peut ouvrir de nouvelles opportunités à toutes les apprenantes et tous les apprenants, donc à tous les enfants. En 2023, nous avions mis l'accent sur les compétences numériques. En 2024, nous avons exploré le potentiel de l'intelligence artificielle pour stimuler l'apprentissage. Et cette année, en 2025, nous nous concentrons sur un enjeu essentiel dont on a longuement parlé aujourd'hui, l'inclusion. Et je tiens d'ailleurs ici juste à faire un petit rappel que au-delà de cette journée Ecobank, le groupe Ecobank s'est engagé dans le cadre de son agenda diversité et inclusion à être beaucoup plus proactif dans l'accessibilité. Donc l'accessibilité, que ce soit à l'interne, donc pour nos collègues ou à l'externe par rapport à l'ensemble de nos partenaires et de nos clients, est un des piliers phares de cette stratégie diversité et inclusion. Donc pour revenir au webinaire d'aujourd'hui, la question a vraiment été de comment faire en sorte qu'aucun apprenant ou apprenante, quelles que soient ses capacités physiques, cognitives, sensorielles, ne soit laissé de côté. Et je pense que ce qui ressort clairement de nos échanges aujourd'hui, c'est que l'IA, l'intelligence artificielle, et les technologies avancées sont de puissants leviers qu'elles ne suffisent pas seules. Leur impact dépend de la façon dont elles sont conçues, leur accessibilité et de la façon dont elles sont déployées. C'est l'humain, c'est l'innovation humaine qui a été répétée à plusieurs reprises par nos panélistes. C'est la volonté collective, c'est les partenariats solides et la conviction partagée qui transforment réellement les systèmes éducatifs. Donc, c'est pourquoi je souhaite vraiment adresser tous mes remerciements donc, au directeur général du groupe Ecobank pour ses remarques et qui nous a montré comment l'engagement de tout Ecobank est important pour la jeunesse et l'éducation. Je tiens à remercier également nos intervenants, Irene, Evans et Fernando, pour la richesse de vos analyses, pour votre expertise, pour la passion avec laquelle vous avez partagé vos connaissances et expériences. À notre modératrice, Raissa, pour avoir guidé nos échanges avec clarté et dynamisme et avoir permis une discussion fluide et stimulante. Ainsi qu'à notre partenaire, le Partenariat mondial pour l'éducation, pour sa collaboration indéfectible, ça fait 3 ans maintenant qu'il nous accompagne, et également pour son engagement commun en faveur d'une éducation inclusive et de qualité en Afrique. À la Fondation Ecobank, nous croyons profondément que l'éducation est la clé d'une Afrique plus juste, plus forte et plus prospère. En tant qu'entreprise citoyenne, nous réaffirmons notre engagement à soutenir cet écosystème en favorisant l'innovation, en rassemblant les acteurs clés et en promouvant des solutions capables de produire un impact durable et à grande échelle. Parce que l'éducation n'est pas seulement un bien social, elle constitue en fait le socle de la croissance inclusive et de la prospérité partagée de l'Afrique et également la clé pour que chaque enfant puisse développer tout son potentiel. Donc, je voudrais conclure par une idée simple. Ce que nous avons entamé aujourd'hui, je l'espère, n'est pas seulement une conversation, mais plutôt un appel à l'action. Le véritable succès va se mesurer dans les salles de classe, dans le quotidien des enseignantes et enseignants, des apprenantes et apprenants, et dans l'avenir des enfants qui, sans ces efforts, risqueraient d'être laissés. Ensemble, continuons à transformer l'Afrique grâce à l'éducation. Ensemble, faisons en sorte que chaque enfant, quelles que soient ses capacités, ait la possibilité d'apprendre et de s'épanouir et de contribuer à l'avenir de notre continent. Et pour finir, à tous mes collègues qui sont connectés aujourd'hui, je vous souhaite à tous une excellente journée Ecobank, pleine de succès et d'impact. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup, Madame Desbordes, pour cet appel à l'action et ce rappel nécessaire sur notre responsabilité d'offrir à nos enfants la possibilité de grandir, d'apprendre, de s'épanouir et d'agir sur et pour notre continent dès maintenant. Je voudrais aussi saisir cette occasion pour remercier rapidement les interprètes qui ont rendu ce webinaire plus accessible. Grand merci aux organisateurs que vous êtes, la Fondation Ecobank, le Partenariat mondial pour l'éducation. Bien sûr, on remercie également les artisans de l'ombre, Achille Roger, qui nous ont permis de nous connecter depuis le Togo, le Sénégal, le Kenya, la Zambie, les États-Unis et le reste du monde. Et enfin, merci, grand merci à nos panélistes, Evan Satis, Fernando Botelho, Irène Barry-Kirika, pour cet échange passionnant et plein de solutions. Et bravo pour les actions que vous menez tous individuellement. Bravo à vos organisations également pour le travail qu'elles font, notamment ici en Afrique. Je suis Raissa Okoye et j'ai été ravie de modérer ce webinaire intitulé « La technologie peut-elle briser les barrières à l'éducation inclusive ?» organisé par Ecobank, la Fondation Ecobank et le Partenariat mondial pour l'éducation. Merci encore. Bonne journée Ecobank à tous et à bientôt.